But anyway, let's move on and cast our mind over to Thursday and think about the team selection, because there are a few kind of selection headaches going into the game. Maybe the fullback situation and then definitely the number 9, because Solanke not really doing it at the moment. And Richarlison obviously came on and scored at the weekend. He's got 2 goals since Solanke has even got a goal. So, I mean, Kate, for number 9, are you starting Rishi or are you starting Solanke?
I don't know. Oh, God. I mean, I rate Solanke a lot higher than Richie as a player because I think he does so much more for the team. But at the same time, we need someone who's going to actually put the ball in the back of the net. Oh, it's difficult. It's difficult. Jim's been screaming to try Brennan Johnson at number 9, but this is definitely not the game to do it. I think I start Richie. Look, I think I start Richie and try and get a couple of goals out of him because, you know, as much as, like I say, I like Solanke and I know we paid a lot of money for him and I know that his position is to score goals. I do think he's a really unselfish player. I think he holds the ball up well. He's always trying to win the ball back. But for this game on Thursday, what we desperately need are goals. So I think, I can't actually believe I'm saying this, I think I start with Richarlison in place of Solanke.
Yeah, let's see you do that pigeon dance then. George, what do you reckon? Solanke or Richie?
You got to go with Solanke. I think what Solanke gives us outside of the goals makes up for what well, I shouldn't say makes up because our striker should score goals no matter what, but he makes up for what Richarlison has added on the goal front, as in he did get 2 goals, but let's be honest, the goals he did score were fairly horrible. They weren't necessarily good finishes or good bits of movement from Richarlison. It's just sort of a bit of luck, but he got the ball in the back of the net, which is the most important thing. I think Solanke does a great job pressing, great job receiving the ball, winning fouls. He just needs to see a bit more in front of goal. He needs to get a bit better at creating his own chances. I think one thing we probably... I suppose I forgot how it feels to have a normal striker when we had Harry Kane, because when he's on the edge of the box, he puts it in the bottom corner 9 times out of 10, whether he's got a defender in front of him. Solanke doesn't do that. Solanke doesn't score many of those chances. He's only going to score when it's in a fairly easy one inside the box. He's more of a fox in the box type of player. I do think the way we play hasn't helped him, but I'd start with Solanke. I think you just got to keep playing through these sort of droughts, and as a striker, they need games to build up their confidence, which is...
I agree with that, Jules, but don't you think this is like our most important game of the season and we need goals? And Solanke, literally, he couldn't hit a barn door at the minute.
I do agree, but I feel like he does add more, like what Richarlison gives us when he's on the pitch. Chaoticness up top, he's running around sort of like a pigeon, just trying to find his food. Like wherever the ball is, he's going to make sure he's in that position or in that place. But whenever he does get on the ball, are you ever confident he's going to do something good with it? He loses the ball all the time. His first touch is horrible. Whenever he shoots, he's like Brennan Johnson, but worse, as in he rarely ever connects with the ball into like where you're seeing him and you're like, oh, that's a good finish. It's always just like him sliding and kicking it or stretching his leg out. It's always just never quite there, Richarlison. So I'd rather go with Solanke because he's a known quantity. You know what to expect of him. You never know what to expect with Richie.
Could we play both? 4-4-2. That's what some comments are suggesting.
Or play Richie on the wing.
Richie on the wing. Could play Richie on the wing. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind throwing Richie on the wing instead of Sonny. Put Odegaard on the right, Richie on the left.
Could you play Brennan up top?
Jimbo's been saying it for a while, but I don't know. And if you were are you really going to experiment this game and try it? I'm not sure that'd be the best idea.
Yeah, I agree with that. But he's not really been good up top for Wales when he's played there recently. Yeah, that's also true. But I guess he's got better quality around him here at Spurs at Wales. You would like to hope anyway. But I think like with the Solanke and Richarlison one, I feel like in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, maybe we should start Richarlison because he's the one that's able to put the ball in the back of the net and get into more goal-scoring positions. But then I kind of feel like if Richarlison was to start during the game, we'll just be like, all right, just get Solanke on. He's not impacting the game enough. Yeah. And then if Solanke starts, we'll be thinking, all right, just get Richarlison off. Solanke's not impacting the game enough. I just feel like we need a better number 9 at the club. Solanke, since he's been back from his injury, he just hasn't brought us. He brings us running and work rate, but that's about it. He's not holding the ball up. He's not making it stick. He's not even getting in any sort of goal-scoring opportunities. So I feel like with this Richarlison and Solanke situation, I think we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't. I'm not sure if either of them are the better option, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'll go for Solanke. I just think what he offers you, I know he hasn't really offered it, to be honest, in the past few weeks. I wouldn't play him up front. We've played him up front. It hasn't worked. I think one game, though. No, played with 2 games.
Two, 3 games, yeah.
And it was not good. But maybe it's different against Bundesliga opposition because that's who he's used to playing.
It's true.
There are RZ away. He was terrible. Yeah. I think Solanke, because this is such a big game and it's a tough game, and we need everyone to really dig in and do their part. I think people like Solanke are going to be very important in this game. And yes, he hasn't been in good form and he hasn't been playing well recently, but we know when he is playing well and he is on top of his game, what he does offer you. So I just got to bank on the fact he can return to not necessarily even goal scoring, but it's more holding the ball up, battling with centre backs, looking confident again. The last few games, he's allowed himself to be bullied too often. Up again, even against Southampton centre backs, he's getting bullied off the ball, not being able to make it stick. We know when you cast your mind back to the beginning of the season, that wasn't the case. He was making it stick. He was holding off players and bringing other players into play. And even when he wasn't scoring, he was still impacting the game offensively. And he wasn't just impacting the game with his running and pressing, which he still does that. But offensively, he was making space for other players. He was laying it off. He was like a backboard. That has seemed to be, for one reason or another, not in his game at the moment. But we know even when Richarlison's at his best, it's not really in his game. So at least I know... He gets goals, though. He does get goals, but we need to get the ball up the pitch to do that. And I think our best shot to do that is Solanke rather than Richarlison, in my opinion. I think Richarlison can be a super sub. I think that's the role I'd give him as well. Is he even fit enough to start? We don't even know. But he's obviously come on the last 2 games, hasn't he? So maybe he might be fit enough to start. But I think, for me, our best bet right now is to try and get Solanke into form and try and put him in and hope that he has a good game, rather than put Richarlison in the hope that he can find a goal from somewhere, because I feel like we're more likely to be penned into our own half a bit more if Richarlison starts rather than Solanke, because I think we've got a better hope of Solanke holding the ball up than Richarlison. Yeah. So that's why and I also feel like the work rate he does is so invaluable, and it's going to be very invaluable in this game, in my opinion. So I think I would side with Solanke, but it's fair to say he's not in good form. He isn't in good form. And if he does put in a performance like he has done recently, then it's not good at all. And we are in a bit of trouble. And I completely agree with that. But there's a few selection headaches.
Yeah, there's also the wingers as well, because a lot of people saying get Tellin instead of Sonny on the left. There's Odegaard or Johnson on the right. I mean, who are the wingers?
Spencer or Doggy after Doggy played last.
Yeah, I mean, we can get into the fullbacks in a bit, but let's just get into the wingers. I mean, who do we think's going to start out on the wing, Kate?
I personally think he'd go with probably Johnson. I'd like to see Mikey Moore get a start. I don't know what's happened to him. He's kind of disappeared into oblivion, but look, I get it as well. Like I said earlier, you can't start making fundamental changes when we need this game so badly. But at the same time, our wingers haven't been anything much to shout about. I can't see him leaving Son out. So I think he'll start Sonny, and then you've got Odegaard or Johnson. I think he'll start Johnson. I think that'll be who he goes with. Johnson and Sonny. Not particularly who I want, just who I think.
Yeah, I think Johnson gets dropped because he's played the start of the last 2 games in a row. So I've got a feeling Johnson gets dropped for Odegaard. But I did see, obviously, last week, Odegaard apparently needed scans as to why he wasn't on the bench on the weekend. So I think it depends on how Odegaard is. But I think Odegaard will start on the right. I think he's realised, well, I say he's realised, definitely not realised it. But maybe he knows just that Odegaard is a better on-the-ball player than Brennan Johnson. And you need an outlet on either side. If Sonny's constantly on the left-hand side passing the ball back, and then you got Johnson who only runs in behind, we haven't got an outlet of someone who can get the ball at their feet and run at their man. You need to start Odegaard.
Johnson's our top goal scorer. How'd you drop him?
What do you mean, how do you drop him? You drop him because he's not that good of a player.
But he's our top goal scorer, and we need goals. That's all.
No, I get that, but also in the Europa League, it's not like his goals have not done much for us. Let's have it right. Like he's got some decent goals in the Premier League, and his numbers look great because, again, he's scored quite a few goals against poor sides. But when it comes to big games and needing something, I don't think Johnson's the guy you can rely upon. I think we need Odegaard to create chances for the likes of Solanke or Richarlison, whoever's in the middle, which he does do. Odegaard's dangerous down that right-hand side. And also, if you play him on that right-hand side, he's got a fairly decent link-up with Bergvall. So you can put Bergvall on that right-hand side to combine with him.
But also, George, just to combat that a little bit, I felt like since after the Alkmaar game when Odegaard scored those 2 goals, I think he's been pretty poor, Odegaard, since that game.
I think there's been times where I'm watching him, I'm like, yeah, he's drowning in this team. But also, the one thing, again, he's just better than everyone else at running at their man. That's all it is. He's the only player who's confident in doing so. We have other young players, maybe Matisse Tell, maybe Mikey Moore, that would also do that. But Odegaard's the one where you actually know he's going to consistently do it, and he does it effectively. There is times where I'm thinking his final third ball, we always knew from early on in the season when we saw him, his final third ball was going to be questionable. His decision-making at time questionable. He's a young player, needs time to learn. And unfortunately, he missed half of the season, so he didn't get that time build up that sharpness, but I'd expect him to do much better than Renato.
Would you consider throwing Decky in?
Yeah, I think Decky goes in on the 10, though. I think you drop Madders.
Decky has to start, doesn't he?
Like, he has to
start. What ahead of Madders? You drop Madders, 100%.
Yeah, Maddison gets dropped. I think Maddison, like, I don't look at any of the performances as of recently and like, yeah, Maddison's done amazing. He had a decent game against AZ Alkmaar in the second leg. But I feel like Kulusevski
in the first leg, he was really good.
So did I.
Well,
well, but I don't think it was like a performance to blow us away.
No, I think it's when you get an assist, and you know that's what Maddison's done so often this season. He'll get an assist and he'll have like a final third moment where he creates us 1 or 2 chances, and the people think he's had a good game. I don't feel like we didn't bring him in to do that. We brought him in to win us games. He's not winning games.
Could we play both of them alongside each other?
We could. I just don't think that Kulu off of the right is that good. He's not as good as he is
in the middle. I mean in the middle, but that means dropping Bergvall, so I guess you can't do that.
Yeah, man. Bergvall's been way too good. I think if he's our only undroppable player right now.
It's mad to say that, isn't it? 18-year-old coming from Sweden, our only undroppable player. How about Son for Tell? Tell scored on the weekend. Is there a shout to put Tell in ahead of Son?
Nah. Man, Tell's been all right. I think off the left he offers more than Sonny, as in again running at his man. But Sonny's a lot smarter with the ball. So even if he's not been able to run at his man, even if he's not been able to, you know, be the player that he was before, where he's all action sort of thing, now I can rely on Sonny when he gets that ball in the final third to make a key pass, make a good pass, make a smart run, move players out of positions. He does things that a lot of other players in our forward line won't do. He's just smarter. His football IQ's ahead. So I'd start Sonny, bring Tell on against the tired legs.
Yeah, I mean, back to the Kulu Maddison thing. Like, Maddison's just played so much football as well over the last 3 or 4. He started the last 4 games. And in the second half on the weekend, he was flagging a little bit. And we all know that Maddison, he's barely played Maddison twice in a week all season, and suddenly he started the last 4 games. Yeah. So I think that is suggestion that Kulusevski will start on Thursday night in the midfield. And I guess the centre-backs pick themselves with Kuti and Mickey. But in terms of the fullbacks, Spence and Porro on the weekend. Doggy got rested both league games and started the Europa League last week. Do you think Doggy and Porro again? Or, I mean, I think Doggy played very well, didn't he, last time out against Frankfurt?
Oh, God, sorry, I was waiting for you to carry on.
Oh, sorry, no, I could happily go. Yeah, no, I thought Doggy was amazing against Frankfurt. Like, him going, maybe not amazing because might be stretching, but going forward, he was better than Sonny down on that left-hand side, constantly beating his man. He was showing the sort of that dribbling attribute that we saw so often last season that he managed to do so well that we haven't seen enough of this year. I feel like he was showing the danger, and maybe because he's had Jed Spence there battling for his spot, it started to bring a little bit more fire out of him. So he looked like he's just fighting for his position a bit better. So
all the Man City links, George.
all those, because we know how much Pep Guardiola loves him and Spence. He had conversation with both of them in that game. It's just how good they are as runners. So I think for me, I start Udogie and I start Porro. You go with the 2 players that started that game, not because Spence necessarily had a bad game or anything against Wolves on the weekend, but I think Jed Spence is reliable to the fact you can bring him on mid-game and still have a really good performance from him. If we're leading or we take a 1-0 lead, or if you just need extra legs in that second half, good to have Jed Spence on the bench because he can swap on either side. If you want to take a Doggy off, you want to take Porro off, he's good to have on either side. So I'd leave him on the bench. And plus, this game could go to extra time. So you can come off the bench and still play more minutes than the person that's actually started. So you need to have a few of those game changers.
I would actually start a Doggy on the left and Spence on the right. I think Spence has just been so good for us ever since breaking into the team. It makes it hard to leave him out, and I was so shocked that they did leave him out. And I know what Porro brings us on the ball, and it's kind of invaluable at times, but I feel like in this game, going away to opposition like that, we need to be defensively sound as well as, you know, have the force going forward. And I think Spence and a Doggy probably bring us that over having Porro at right back. And if we are kind of need a goal going into the last 20 minutes, then you bring on a Porro who can, you know, impact that forward line or getting the ball forward with his amazing ball playing ability maybe later on in the game. And I think having Spence and a Doggy kind of brings us the best in both worlds, like their defensive solidity, but also a force going forward as well. So I feel that it should be Spence and a Doggy, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with you, because I think Porro, like you say, I think he brings us more going forward than he does defensively. And I think we need to be defensive because, I mean, it don't matter if we nick it 1-0. I know it's highly unlikely we keep a clean sheet, but you never know. But I just think Spence is more solid. I agree with what you said about Bergvall being undroppable, but I think Spence is close behind. He's another player who I think has been exceptional this year. And I think to drop him is kind of harsh. But then you've got the option to start him but bring on Porro later in the day. And Udogie, I've been really, really critical of him this season. I think he's been a bit poor. But it was good to see him against Frankfurt actually give a good performance, because I think he's not been the Udogie we've known. I know he's had injuries and stuff. So if we can get another performance like that out of him, be good.
I think it is for me. I think Udogie definitely starts, and I think it's between Porro and Spence, in my opinion, who starts. I kind of like the way George is thinking in terms of, because Spence can play either side, you can kind of, see which one is flagging near the end of the game or whatever on the hour mark, and then you can bring either one on for Spence. Whereas if you start Spence, you kind of, I know you could always move Spence over to the other side, but I think it's better to have a fresh Spence coming off the bench than having moving over mid-game, potentially if that's the way you want to go. And I also think the Frankfurt game recently was the game where we've looked our most ourselves and our best performance in recent weeks, and that was with those two. So I think I would just side with going with that, and I think he probably will side with going with that, judging by his selection. I do think it's harsh on Spencer. I do acknowledge that, and I think Spencer deserves to start. But just what Porro offers, and what I saw from Udogie last week, I think I would just want to go with the same thing. Try and put in a similar performance, and then you'll have Spence could even have Spence for an hour potentially if he comes on the hour mark. So I think as well from set pieces, if we're talking about dropping Madders, then you're going to need someone from set pieces, and Porro is going to have to do that. And Sonny take the free kicks. You could have Sonny on free kicks and corners, but I don't know. Why not? I'm not sure Porro or Maddison.
It's got to be,
Why am I seeing loads of cringes for Sonny on set pieces?
I don't like him on set pieces.
Have we not? The only set pieces, or the only the only free kicks he scored for us have been the ones from like the corner where bounced in, haven't they? He's only ever scored those kinds, and I've got no problem with him taking set pieces when it's to whip them in, because he does a decent whip on him. But when it comes to, I think we need to take Maddison off free kicks too, because we've seen as of recently absolutely dreadful. I still have the picture playing in my head in AZ Alkmaar first leg of when he had that great opportunity and he passed it like. That
was on fault.
I was doing the watch along, and people saw my head was gone after. I was like, don't know what is going on here. Maybe he needs to start watching Declan Rice and how to take free kicks. But I think you need someone on there who can be dangerous on set pieces, and Porro is probably the most dangerous one out of them. Though you don't want to have a player on just for that case. So clearly we have a problem there. We need more players that can take set pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. Apparently, bit of FPL breaking news. Apparently, James Maddison had Ange as his assistant manager and removed him. Oh, really? And Eddie Howe. Some people are saying it's just because Howe had a double game week, but you can read into that wherever you want. I'm surprised he picked him initially first as assistant manager. What game did he pick up? Wolves. No, it must have been last game because it's a double game week. It's Southampton. There you go. Makes sense.